Hello, and welcome to this different thing to the normal different thing we're doing differently at the moment. That's an intro.
that's a sentence.
Hello and welcome to this Final Boss Fight Emergency Escape podcast. My name is John, and I am joined by Jeff.
Hello, don't mind me. I'm just getting ready for turnips tomorrow.
That's a turnip for the books.
Uh,
I'll be here all week. Tip your waitresses. We have been trying to do the Final Boss Fight pub quiz on Saturday evenings as much as possible, but this week contestants ran a little bit short. Unfortunately, a number of people are not feeling very well today. They've had busy days. Jennifer sends her apologies, says that she's been teaching her cousins Romeo and Juliet and came home with a massive headache.
I have questions.
Which
are
bit?
Are her cousins Romeo and Juliet, or is she teaching them a Shakespeare play?
I assume that she is teaching them a Shakespearean play from a socially acceptable distance.
Their names aren't actually Romeo and Juliet.
That's fair. Yes, no. As far as I know, they are. I could have not met the cousins Romeo and Juliet, but I as far as I know, Romeo and Juliet teaching has been occurring of the Shakespearean play. She promises that she will be back with us both for D&D tomorrow night and also for pub quiz next week, where she's hoping that the teaching of Romeo and Juliet will have made her smarter and more capable of answering the questions.
She would have leveled up her intelligence stat, is what you're saying.
That is what she is, what she's hoping for, yes. So with just Jeff and I could, of course, just ask Jeff a load of questions.
I'd win at least. I would win.
And Jeff would be guaranteed a victory, but I felt that was a little bit one-sided. One moment.
Funny you mentioned about Romeo and Juliet. When I was in Verona, when I went to Verona, actually on holiday, I went to Verona one of the days. And are you aware that Juliet has this? There's this whole big, massive thing about Juliet at Verona.
I mean, that makes sense. That is where we set our scene.
So there's this house that was supposed to be the one that inspired Shakespeare. It's got like the balcony and everything. So he goes through this doorway into this courtyard, and immediately as you go in, because it's like, it's supposed to be a very romantic spot. So there's like locks on all the walls where people have written.
Oh, the padlock thing that you, yeah.
Yep. You go in, there's like all these flowers everywhere. You've got the balcony, the house with the balcony. There's a museum, a whole museum about like Shakespeare and Romeo and Juliet. At the top, there's some terminals where you can write letters to Juliet, because that's the thing as well. You write letters to your Juliet about your love life, lack of all relationships, and one of a team of Juliets.
Does she help?
A team of Juliets, one of them will respond to you in some presumably helpful way.
Oh, well.
At the far end of the courtyard, when you go in, there is a bronze statue of Juliet, and there's a rumor that if you touch past the statue, you will have good luck in your love life, and as a result, one very prominent part of the statue has just been worn completely shiny.
Shall we leave it up to the audience at home to work out which part of the statue has been worn off?
Yes, it's the right one.
Did you see that Darren Brown did that to a dog up north?
What, groped him inappropriately?
There's a dog statue in a town called Todmorden, which is famous for largely one reason. Todmorden as a whole, as well as the statue itself. It's a statue of a dog, and Darren Brown did a show where he was talking about superstition and the sort of science behind it. And he went to the statue and managed to start a rumour that it was lucky. and if you rubbed the head of the dog, you got good luck. And now lots of people go up to Todmorden and rub the head of the dog, despite the fact the show's come out now where it's been revealed that it was all a big hoax by Darren Brown, and it's just a thing of if you do get lucky after doing it, it is just you looking for the, like, you seeing all the positive things that happen as luck, not a actual change in the fate of the universe.
Yeah, one last thing before we leave this topic. So, when I've been to St Pancras Station for various reasons, there's a statue there, and it's a statue like, memorializing the war, the people who went off to war, leaving their sweethearts behind. It's a statue, I believe it's of a couple, of a soldier and his sweetheart, and around the plinth of the statue, there's like relief sculptures in bronze of like various scenes from the war.
Right.
And it still like looks fairly like aged bronze. It's like gone dark. Apart from one part, there's a dog that's like in one small section. There's a dog, and it is like the shiniest thing you've ever seen.
Well, I mean, one of the things that's interesting.
Like going and patting the dog.
One of the things that's interesting is if we were doing this as the same old school FBF EEPC that we used to, and weren't live streaming it, I can almost guarantee that this episode would have been called The Bronze Age, because that's how I used to name the episodes. Is we'd have some topic of conversation that came up, then I would edit the podcast, such as it was. Largely, it was just putting the music at the beginning and uploading the file. And then I would come up with some pun about something that we'd said in the first 5 minutes or so as the show title. So, there's a little behind the scenes for about 5 to 7 years ago now as to how that used to work. So we thought we'd do a old school final boss fight emergency escape podcast. Sean may or may not join us. His PC is having some issues. He is attempting to wrestle it into submission, and if he feels like it after that, he might hop into the call as well.
You need to watch out for cables, though. Cables just have a complete life of their own. They're just all over the place.
Which really does bring this up as an old school FBF podcast. But we're going to talk about the gaming news, which is the thing we used to do, or a thing I used to do. We're going to talk about the games, what we have been playing, and I feel that we'll probably talk a little bit about D&D and role-playing games, because that seems to be a big topic with us at the moment. And there's ample space to discuss them. It's that's another show that I've been thinking about, like, trying to fit into our busy schedule, because we've got a fairly well-defined schedule of where shows go that might not be obvious to an audience. I don't know if we promote it as well as we should do.
We're kind of regular in the things that we say. So, like, this week we're doing this other week we're doing this. So it's there somewhere.
But one of the shows that I've been trying to work out where to fit is D&D Brief, which I like as a name.
I do. It's just the pun in it. It's just
it's a
the pun physically hurts.
An emergency escape podcast. It's pun free. But basically, it would be sort of our equivalent of this is what's happened in the game. How do you guys feel about that? What would you do differently? Like,
what would you have done differently?
What would you do differently now that you know some of the other stuff that you didn't know then, etc., so on and so forth. And, like, you'd get a chance to talk to me about the game and things that have happened. It's something that I would like to try and fit in if we can at some point when we have time to do it. But it's also finding the time when the people that are in the games have the time elsewhere to record these things, because we have a lot of people that do things.
Oh yeah, it's taking us a lot of time to find slots available for just the games themselves. Never mind anything else.
Yeah. I mean, in good news, as you've seen in the trailers, we're replacing Tomb of Annihilation with Waterdeep Dragon Heist. I have 2 of the characters fully made. And we've got 3 more to make. Well, 2 of the characters... One of the characters is fully made. One of the characters, I've got a couple of dice rolls left to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the other people that's in the game, I'm sitting down with tomorrow to make their character. And then I've got one other person who I've not spoken to yet, who's going to hopefully make an interesting character and stick around for the long term. And I'm also waiting to hear back from another person who might be in the game. So, hopefully...
Now that you've been needlessly cryptic about all of this...
I figured, we'll keep some surprise in it. We'll go into more about that later in the show. Stick around. Give a little, and then make you wait around for the answer. This is how talk shows go. Let's talk about the gaming news. And I've got some.
Okay.
I went out when I thought that we were on the verge of doing a quiz or this, and got the gaming news. Don't actually have any quiz questions, so I would have had to quickly look those up. But that's easy enough. I've got one website to do that on. Gears of War 5. Gaming news. The Carmines have made it.
Really?
Anthony, Benjamin, and Gary Carmine are now playable characters in Gears of War 5's Versus multiplayer mode.
Oh.
This marks a significant change compared to the release of the other characters in the game. Up to this point, new cogs were released in Versus multiplayer and PvE modes Horde and Escape at the same time. Basically, Gears of War 5 fans have wanted to play as the Carmines since the game came out last year. Anthony Carmine became an instant hit after he was unceremoniously killed off in the first game. And
so
since...
should we say spoilers for Gears of War 1 and 2 before we do this?
A little late for that now. Since then, the Carmines have become kind of an inside joke with Hapless, Near Death, and the other version experiences. At this point, only one Carmine brother is confirmed to have survived the game series.
Carmine.
Chief Sergeant Clayton Clay Carmine, the oldest brother of the family, and actually appears in the superb campaign of Gears of War 5, but he isn't in the multiplayer.
So, is the multiplayer not part of the story then?
I'm guessing from that, he is not in... Like, the multiplayer is separate to the storyline.
Interesting.
The trailer for the Carmine's addition to the game references this in-joke and shows the hapless Carmine brothers being shot to bits over and over again. As you expect.
Yeah.
Each of the Carmines can be earned through gameplay by crafting their totem, equipping it, and earning 30,000 XP. Or you could buy each of them for 500 iron, which is a currency, I guess?
I think so. Sounds like it, yeah. Essentially, you can buy it for real-world cash or earn it through a slog in gameplay.
Yeah.
As is the way of things nowadays.
As
Gears
is tradition of the moment.
I keep meaning to pick up Gears Tactics, see if that's what that's like. Have you seen that do the rounds?
No.
It's a Gears game, but it's got XCOM style turn-based strategy.
Okay. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because I'm apparently not very good at XCOM style turn based strategy, as evidenced by the mass genocide of FBF in the recent stream.
Oh, you mean a coughing fit?
I mean, this was to the point where no coughing fit would fit.
Yeah. No, it's supposed to. It's interesting because it's supposed to be the start of the Locust War, so it's a prequel even to the first Gears of War.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved the first game. Like, the first game came out and it looked amazing. Like, the style of the gameplay, the style of the game
Hmm.
was amazing. The architecture in the world, it felt like a real place. I really enjoyed the first three, and like that had a nice plot arc to it. You had these big butch buff characters who
Yeah.
were ludicrous. Like, why on earth would anybody be that big and buff? But also, like, the key thing that a lot of people miss out on is they have emotions. And I think that's a really nice touch, is that even these big butch buff, slabs of muscle,
Hmm.
they have emotions. It's all right to have them. People do. It's a thing. Like, you know, um,
Like I said, I think I enjoyed like the story of it because, like you said, it's a well-defined story arc. It had the beginning as the first one, middle as the second one, and ending as the third one. And you could have just like quietly said, "That's a story.
yeah.
That's a pretty good story. That's done with." I know when they brought out Gears of War 4, they're with the new cast of characters, like they're doing a new version of that.
Yes.
So the question is, are they going to stick with it and do Gears of War 6 as an ending to that story, or is it going to become more multiplayer based? I remember we had a conversation a while back, didn't we? Could resurrect it about whether companies prefer to do campaign based games or multiplayer based games.
Yeah. I mean, it's difficult because, like, multiplayer based game means you've got a game that is going to last forever
Yeah,
until you have to shut the servers down.
yeah,
Whereas a campaign based game, you buy it, you play it for 8 hours, 10 hours, 16 hours, however long it is, but there is a finite game there. And at some point, you're going to finish it. Regardless of it's a 8 hour, 4 hour, a Final Fantasy 32 hour slog, somewhere in there is an end point you are going to get to, and the game is done. And at that point, what do you do with the game? And a lot of people, a lot of gamers trade it in for another game. And at that point, a game shop has a pre-owned copy,
hmm.
which the company that makes it has gets no money back from.
It's an interesting thing that because that's where the game shops all make their money from. It's a
The,
different. We're veering onto a different subject now, but even so, yeah,
the game
it's just
shops
the whole.
make their money on the pre-owned games and the accessories and things like that.
I remember this is why games stopped doing PC games for a while because
Yeah,
it got
because you
tied to
couldn't.
yeah, because you couldn't do second hand.
But for the developer, for the publisher, for the distributor, for whoever's involved in actually making and selling the game, they don't get anything out of a second-hand copy of the game being sold.
Hmm.
And
No,
so they've got their best interest in you keeping the game forever.
they can do. This is where you get day one patches and day one
This is
DLC.
true. That's the conceit of it, is that that's how they get their money out of the second-hand market.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That was a fun conversation.
that's a divergence.
Yeah, it's fun though. I have nothing against that.
That's what we're here for. Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
Yes.
It's a game that's coming. You may have heard of it.
It is, yes.
Little game. Got a couple of quick announcements for you. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it this week, but they've
Have they released a gameplay trailer that actually shows gameplay?
I no. Well, I mean,
So
the
that's
gameplay
the
trailer
thing.
that shows gameplay, I assume, shows at least a little bit, like 2 seconds or so.
I couldn't tell anything that was gameplay from that trailer, but that's a different.
There's a couple of things that they have confirmed as returning that you might be interested in as a long-term fan of the series.
Mm-hmm.
The one-hit Hidden Blade is back.
Ooh, that is interesting.
So, for a start, Ivor is not a trained assassin.
Okay.
But he does receive his Hidden Blade early on in the game. He is a Viking who receives this badass weapon and has to learn very quickly how to use it. Early on in that experience, he learns a technique that, if you time it right, will one-shot kill virtually anyone.
I'm on board with this.
Um,
It sounds very similar to the story for Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
yeah, I'm intrigued to see how they're going to do it differently to that. Because I assume it is going to be different to that.
Yeah. Although I am glad the Hidden Blade is back. Assassin's Creed Odyssey was great, but to me it didn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game because it didn't have the Hidden Blade. Instead, you had a spear, which you could upgrade, and that counts as your assassin weapon.
Right.
But one of the skills you could learn with it, you could learn all the usual things like one hit kill, sneak up behind them, heroic strike. The one way you could throw the spear at an enemy, it would hit them for massive damage. Then you would immediately appear where the spear was and continue the attack, follow through the attack for massive damage.
Okay. I'm trying to work out how that actually works in the real world.
I don't think they actually fully explain how it works in the real world. But
Cool.
that turned the game into Final Fantasy 15 because that was a signature move of the main character in Final Fantasy.
Yeah,
15.
you threw your sword and then ended up where your sword was.
You could just, like, no matter where you were, as long as you could see the enemy and they were within range, you could just basically straight behind them and just keep doing that, which was fun. I'm not going to go against that. It was fun. Sneaking around doing that was fun, but it wasn't an Assassin's Creed game for various reasons.
The other thing that Ashraf Ishmael has confirmed is back in the game is social stealth. The ability to blend with a crowd.
Yeah.
Which was also phased out in Odyssey and Origins, and it
actually had anything like that in Odyssey, and I can't think of anything.
It is back. They have confirmed that Odyssey's visual customization system for weapons and armor is going to be back. Which turned up post-launch in Odyssey.
I remember that, yeah.
All of the gear in Assassin's Creed Valhalla is unique and is going to be upgradable at blacksmiths in your home settlement. Upgrading the gear will also give you new visuals to the gear that can be interchange the visuals of all the armor and weapons that they have obtained.
That's interesting. So, like in Odyssey, you could have your most mismatched set of biggest armor, but you can then skin it to look like it's a proper...
From the looks of it, yes.
Yeah. That'd be good.
They have also confirmed the musical team that will be working on the game.
Let's go on, yep.
Jasper Kidd.
Yay!
Who composed music for the first 4 entries in the game.
Who composed the iconic Ezio's, and the iconic in the correct sense, Ezio's theme, which has been in nearly every game since. Just a couple of it hasn't been in.
He is joined by veteran video game composer Sarah Shanawa, who composed Assassin's Creed Origins, and Norwegian artist, and it wouldn't be an Emergency Escape podcast if I didn't mispronounce somebody's name, Einar Selvik.
That sounds about right. He does sound like he's come out of a Marvel movie.
Whose work you can hear on Vikings on the TV.
Okay. I now may need to go and watch Vikings on TV. Just to get into it, but okay.
And then they also showed off that, and then they showed off that we're going to have a settlement that is in England. And then the following day, they released a bunch more information that I have for you now. So continuing on down the list, you will be able to change your main character's hair colour. That detail was one of several announced. You will have a number of different hairstyles and beard styles that you can choose from. If you are playing as a male.
I like how they're digging in with the really important stuff to start with.
You know, get it out there. They have confirmed, not in the news that I have here, but that you will be able to play as a male or female character. Both of them are named Ivor.
Oh, so it's not going to be like the previous one where you were playing brother or sister. It's actually the same character, but yeah.
It's the same character, but they could be either a male or a female.
Okay.
And it'll be the same name, so it won't be like in the previous games. I was discussing this the other night with, I don't remember if it was you, I think it was Michael and Sean, and Michael was pointing out that this means that they don't have to go back and record all of the lines with both names in them.
Yeah, it's true.
Which obviously means that they don't have to take that into consideration at all. So the fact that it is one name that fits either character, we suspect it means that your character will be referred to a lot as they.
TC isn't too bad to...
But yeah...
You have to drop in, but they... What I do miss, I miss the... It's like one of my favourite things in Assassin's Creed. Now that I've gone through, because I started replaying Assassin's Creed Syndicate recently, and I don't know if you found this, but if you go back to a game for like a second time, you find yourself playing it through a different way.
Yeah.
So the first time I was going through as Jacob and pretty much stealth, hidden blading, beating people up. But now I'm going through as Evie, and my main thing with Evie is throwing knives.
Right.
Literally like hitting everybody with throwing knives, hitting horses with throwing knives, which I discovered you could do. I didn't know that before. But before just shooting them.
See, I was going to say, if you were going to go with saying that Evie you were going through as like the all-out brawling in your face, not stealthy mode, like that ain't Evie.
No. But it's just I like the idea that you got two. I like the idea of having two separate characters, but both of them exist at the same time, and they both.
It was an interesting maneuver. That was an interesting way of doing it. I would have loved to have seen them do an option for Syndicate where you could have co-op and somebody played the other one, because that felt like that was missing.
That would have been good in a lot of places, actually.
Like, that felt like that was a missing element to the game. Because obviously there's a lot of the time where both of the characters go off and do two separate missions in two different places.
Yeah.
But there's a number of other times where it's just, I'm going to go do this. I will stand here and wait. And it's like, well, why don't you come with me and you can stab people? I might need your assistance over there, sis.
Yeah.
I
would like to see that sort of thing, but that sort of thing refined.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Rather than like in Odyssey or in like Dishonored 2, where you had the choice of one character and then the other character locks out of the story for whatever reason.
I mean, isn't that largely what happened with Odyssey. I've not played it,
It
but
is, yeah, it is, yeah.
literally, you
Whichever
pick
character,
one
whichever
character and the
character
one
you
that you
choose,
don't gets chucked off a cliff.
not quite what happens, but it's like no, the one that you do. The other character is in the story, but they're locked out of your part of
Right.
the story. They actually become like your main antagonist. Spoilers for Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Fair.
But the idea is that you can't play them, and your story won't intersect with them in the same way that it does with Jacob and Evie. It's like with Dishonored, like whichever character you pick in Dishonored, the other one is turned into stone and is unavailable for the majority of the game.
Right.
But with Syndicate, you could switch between them freely, and I'd like them to bring that back.
Yeah. I still think also co-op.
That as well. That
Like,
gives us variety to that as well. Yeah.
if you have the two characters together in the same place at the same time, the ability to have somebody else hop into your game and take over this other character, and not in the way they did it with Unity, where it was, "Hi, I'm Arno. I'm also Arno. I'm Arno too. I'm also Arno. Okay, let's go stab people over there. This won't break history at all."
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. Yeah. Ubisoft, if you are watching this, get on that. We want to see like proper like characters, choice of characters, being able to interweave between them and being able to co-op between them.
I mean, I know that's hard, but,
Yeah. I also would have wanted a controversial thing to say. I would have wanted to see a companion app for Syndicate, because the whole thing about because you're building up this gang of rooks, it would be nice to say, okay, you 5 people, you go off and spend 5 hours there and come back later on with some items that you've got from there. That would have been really cool to see.
just as within Origins, in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you'll be able to whip your hood up and down for doing stealthy stuff.
Another thing that was missing from Odyssey.
But you won't have to go into the game's menu to do it. And they've also mentioned that you can customize the tattoos and war paint. You will have a crow companion in this game.
I heard this ties into the whole Odin mythology, doesn't it?
The crow is named Sunin.
Okay.
Which is meant to resemble the word insight in Old Norse. Which does very much tie in with the Odin mythology, because Odin's ravens were called Memory and Thought.
Hugin and
Munin.
Yeah.
They have said that the Raven will have new abilities compared to those of the Eagles in Origins and Odyssey, and they will be removing elements of the UI to let players explore Valhalla's world more organically.
Okay.
And you can still use it to attack enemies and distract them while you sneak up close and stab in the back with the Hidden Blade. Which is kind of what you want to do.
I noticed that they've done the Hidden Blade so it comes out over the arm instead of under the arm now. Because apparently, according to Odyssey, that's the way it should have been done, but everybody else got it wrong and did it under the arm.
Okay. So it's meant to come out Wolverine style.
The canonical first user of the Hidden Blade, this is going to be Odyssey nerdy, so in one of the DLCs, he's supposed to have like the first Hidden Blade.
Right.
It comes out shrunk like that over his arm. But then everybody else, I think by the time we got to Origins, when Bayek had it, he wanted to keep it hidden, so he had it so it came out under his arm, so it wasn't as obvious.
I mean, that makes sense. It's more hidden.
But the side effect of that was then cut off his finger the first time he tried to use it.
Yeah, that's the real downside. And obviously that's one that's still happening in Altair's time, and Ezio gets around it because of his mate Leo.
Not quite. I think they redesigned it between Altair's time and Ezio's time. They redesigned it so that it came out probably stood out a bit.
No, because it's one of the things in when you go and get your hidden blades is Leonardo da Vinci upgrades them for you.
Yeah, but I think I'm sure that he says at some point the design was changed at some point so they didn't cut your finger off.
GTA 5.
Which then begs the question why they did it in the movie for being completely. Carry on, GTA 5.
GTA 5 have you seen the news about GTA 5 this week?
No, I haven't. What's news about GTA 5 this week?
Well, you're going to want to run over to the Epic Game Store and pick it up because it is
Oh,
free.
it's free, isn't it? Yes.
Uh,
I would go over to Epic Games Store and pick it up. I already have it twice.
so much so that the Epic Game Store fell over from people going to request a free copy of
I saw that
GTA
people,
5.
I'd seen people saying that they were getting 403 errors, which is unauthorized user, which probably means that the front end had fallen over.
Yeah.
The access point had fallen over for it.
So this was on the 14th, so Thursday.
Yeah.
Booting up the Epic Game Store launcher when connected to the internet will only get you an error message, and Epic has tweeted to confirm that the issue, which it attributed to high traffic. We are aware that users may be encountering slow loading times, 500 errors, and the launcher crashing at this time, and we are actively working to scale. We didn't realize that. Well, they didn't say this bit, but we didn't realize that giving away GTA 5 would ask everybody to come and get it.
Funny that it's like one of the biggest games of the last decade.
I've got it. I'm attempting to download it. It is only about 90 gig.
Only 90 gig. Wow.
You know, only that much. So I'm hoping to have that and maybe be able to stream some more GTA 5 from the PC now. Because you know we've streamed it from the Xbox 360 and the Xbox One,
yeah.
so
yeah. It's funny on the Xbox. I've had it on the Xbox One for about 5 years, but I've never done any of this story. The only story I've done is the first part when you're doing the bank robbery in the past, and
literally the amount that you have to do.
Literally the amount you have to do to get into the multiplayer, and that's it. So like every time I boosted it up from when we've done our games, it's always starts like Franklin getting a call from Simeon.
Yep, same. Exactly the same here. I've literally got to that point and been like, yeah, this is enough. I'm much further on it on the Xbox 360 and like.
Oh, I finished it on.
I never finished it.
You never finished it? I
never finished it.
I'm kind of the ending was good because you had a choice of endings and the golden choice was good, but I kind of wish they'd done something different with it.
Fair.
But it was good. It had some good moments in it. We've had a lot of good moments in the online multiplayer, and maybe we should get back to it if we can find something new to do in there.
I mean, did you see the other week they put the peyote in multiplayer?
No.
Around April 1st times, they had a number of very short updates to the game that included snow in April.
Okay.
So that you could have so that snow was falling, it was causing trouble driving, and it was you could do snowball fights. And then they also put the peyote. They put a number of places. There are a number of hotspots around the map where you could find peyote.
Ah.
And when you got to them, you take some of the cactus mushroom plant hallucinogenic, and you transform into an animal. And it's a random animal.
Yeah, good old GTA. Which is strange because they never had any animals in the multiplayer.
No. But basically you could transform into anything from the dogs, any cats, I believe there were crows, or a blackbird of some description, pig, mountain lion.
That's the thing. That'd be the thing about going from the multiplayer back to single player, because in the multiplayer you can go anywhere and completely free. But you try and do the same thing in single player, you're going to get eaten by something.
Yeah. And then there's also one of them that is underwater and lets you turn into a number of aquatic animals, including killer whales, sharks, and
oh wow, nice.
fish.
Cool. I have to check that out. Or something.
Going back to Assassin's Creed briefly,
Mm-hmm.
Ubisoft made another announcement last week that I don't know if you'll have seen. But while this whole going outside and doing stuff thing has been a little bit restricted, Ubisoft has suggested that for 1 week, and 1 week only, starting from yesterday, they are giving away Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins Marvelous Discovery Tours.
Okay.
So you can go get a bit of a roaming done and put in some learning while you do it.
That's cool. You haven't done any of that, so
I should go and do it.
do you know what that? Do you know what that is? Because if you got the game, you get that anyway.
Yes, it's
It's historical tour. It's got all the mechanics of the game in, but it's like historical. It's like historical tours. So you go to say, I want a tour of Corinth, of the monuments of Corinth, and it will say, okay, go here, information, go here, information, go here, information, and as you go through it, you can unlock more and more characters. So it's a nice little
cool.
way to pass time. It's a nice little way to pass time and see parts of the game that you wouldn't normally see because you're too busy getting shot at or stabbed or whatever.
Both of them are available for standalone purchase. They usually set you back £15, or you can just buy the game, and they're a part of the game.
It'd be cool if they did that for some of the other games. If they did that for the Ezio series and Syndicate, I would instantly buy that because they were amazing locations, and I just want to wander around and see the history without worrying about
Being the stabbed bit.
Being the stabbed part, yeah.
However, from now until Thursday the 21st of May, they are available to download and keep via Ubisoft's free events page. You just need an Ubisoft account. So, if you got one of those, go and tour ancient Greece or Egypt. Because those...
Is that PC or is that console as well?
It just mentions PC, but...
Either way, it's worth doing.
Looks to be PC.
Yeah, it's worth seeing anyway, so yeah.
They do also have Rabbids coding up at the moment, so you can, I'm assuming, learn coding with the Rabbids.
Someone's worth giving that a try just for the laughs. Oh wow, that brings up images.
What else is on here as free games? Lots of trials. Might and Magic Chess Royale is also available as a completely free game at the moment.
I wonder what that is.
Discover Might and Magic Chess Royale, the first massive real-time 100-player auto-battler from the Might and Magic high fantasy universe. Create deep strategies in 10-minute rounds and be the last hero standing. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, and then the last bit of gaming news that I have this week is an Overwatch bit of news. An Overwatch fan has unearthed an Easter egg, which is a nod to Diablo 3.
Nice.
In a map that is 2 years old. And apparently it's gone unnoticed until now.
Oh, that's interesting.
It turns out...
Did he find it himself, or did the developer have to say where it was?
He's posted it himself.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out if you break the barrels in the final area of the Blizzard World map, there's a small chance that you'll get a legendary drop. That is, you see the legendary drop visual effect from Diablo 3.
Oh.
So like the little orange beam of light.
Yeah.
The discovery was made by Redditor Aulero, who posted the video of his find and how it compares to Diablo 3's. The Blizzard World theme park map hit Overwatch in January 2018, which means it's taken over 2 years for this Easter egg to come to light. But it was signaled by Blizzard itself in an article published in 2017. At the time, the level designer David Adams said, "There's another Diablo reference hidden in the game's section of the map. Players who destroy some of the barrels might hear a legendary item drop sound now and then." Aulero said that they found it by accident during a match and then replicated it for the video, where he posted on Reddit, "I can't be the first one to have found this, right?" So yeah, it's taken a little while for people to find that.
It reminds me of the one in Arkham Asylum. Did you hear about that one?
What, the one that took a long time in Arkham Asylum to find, of the hidden room?
Yeah, the hidden room that had blueprints for Arkham City. Yeah. I'm just looking at it now. It took 6 months. People thought, it took 6 months, and the developers actually said, like, hey, here's an Easter egg we put in, but we're surprised that nobody's found it.
You kind of got to wonder how long people have to wait for, like, has anyone found it yet?
It's like one poor person at this is, anybody found that thing I did? Should I tell them?
Should I let them know? So that's my gaming news for this week period of time in which we exist at the moment. So do you want to talk about what you've been gaming first?
Yes, of course. So a couple of weeks. So as you know, I'm heavily into video game music of various types, and
it's come up. Ow! I bit my tongue.
It's come up so much you bit your tongue.
Good job, mate.
So a couple of weeks ago, there's I was having a chat with some people about music, and Persona 5 came up as having really good music.
Okay.
So someone, this sounds good music. Oh, then I thought to myself, I wonder what the game's like. So I had a look at some videos. I think it was it's one of those games I think, you think to yourself, I think I'll give it a go just to see what it's like.
Okay.
That was last Sunday, and do you remember you said you put 32 hours as like a decent length game or a long game?
Yeah.
I'm currently at 32 hours in Persona 5, and I am probably about a quarter of the way through.
And you've finished the first mission.
Well, the first mission took me 10 hours to finish. No joke, that took me 10 hours to finish.
Yeah, I mean, JRPGs are definitely one of those ones that's
I really love it.
Way up there in the amount of time it's going to take you to play.
So if you're not aware of what Persona 5 is, if I were to describe it, I would say Inception, but done by Harry Potter.
Okay, an interesting crossover.
So yeah, it's like based a lot on like the heist scenarios. So you've got a team of high school students, and by day they're ordinary high school students, and it does actually make you play this thing by day and by night.
Yeah.
So by day they're high school students out doing their things, learning, getting education, forming relationships, doing all that stuff. Then by night, but then their other job is a team. Their job is to like Inception. The whole purpose of Inception was to go inside somebody's mind and steal information or plant ideas.
Yeah.
It's that sort of idea. So there's this other dimension which is formed from people's minds and people's thoughts and desires. And there are some people it's like the big corporate criminals who never get caught by anything, never get caught because they've got police under their thumb. They just nobody knows about them, or everybody knows
all of the usual sort of thing.
Yep. So these people have what's called a palace, which is like a massive place formed of it's like a mind palace, a memory palace formed of their innermost desires and thoughts. And our heroes go in and infiltrate this palace to try and steal the treasure, which is key to their desire. So it's
of course.
So you've got this sort of heist aspect of it, and that is really good. The heist aspect of it is really good. So you're going in, trying to scout out who the person is, trying to scout out the best way into their palace. Make your way through the palace. Combat is amazing. Combat is turn-based, sort of like the Final Fantasy sort of style, turn-based. But then you go through so okay, tonight we're going in to see, like, to scout out ways into the palace, infiltrate the palace, to get through it. And the next night we're going to tell the person that we're coming for them. And then the next night after that, we're actually going to come for them.
Okay.
So it's like whole sort of stages of the heist, like planning, scouting, then actually doing the job. It's kind of a weird one because it's difficult because I'm not quite sure what I want to speak. Because on the one hand, you've got this amazing fantasy heist thing going on. Like, it takes like a lot of cues from things like Arsene Lupin from Inception, that sort of thing. But on the other side, you've got this high school, everyday high school visual novel simulator sort of thing. And I think that could kind of stand on its own as a game.
Yeah.
So you got two separate games. They kind of work together in this case, but it's just like, what are you trying to be? Are you trying to be a high school dating sim, or are you trying to be this amazing fantasy high school simulator?
I've heard, and I don't remember if it's Persona or other similar games, where people have said they've got a real problem because they have played the game and then they've gone away for a little while and then they go back to playing the game and suddenly it's like finals week at school and they're getting tested on all the things they've been learning at school, except they've been away for a while from the game.
And they've forgotten what all this stuff is.
And they've forgotten all the things they're being taught. And it's kind of like the standard nightmare of forgetting your homework. Like turning up to the test when you've not taken the class before.
Yeah. It must be Persona because as part of the school thing, like, the character does learn stuff, so you get hit with pop questions from time to time.
Yeah.
And they're like general knowledge questions, and if you get the answer right, you get bonuses to your knowledge stats or your charm stats or whatever. But then I've gone through it once where you actually do get an exam on all the things that they've been talking about previously. But the other thing that I have to say is, and the thing that got me into it in the first place, the music for it is excellent.
Cool.
So, I was looking around on YouTube because I like the music so much. I found there's a rhythm game based on the Persona 5 soundtrack.
Yes. I can't remember the name of it, but I know that exists.
Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight, which is really good. It's a nice way to get to get some to get the music going. There's a live concert floating around on YouTube as well, which I watched the other day, which is really good. But yeah, it's really good. It's long. I'm not even halfway through yet, so it's gonna be a long.
Yeah, haul, but you're gonna be there for a while, which is good at the moment.
Yeah, it's not too bad. But yeah, I am really enjoying it. If there's probably one thing I have to say is I do wish. Actually, no, I do have one gripe about it. So the idea is that during the day you're at school doing school stuff, and there's like an after school and evening slot, which is when you're supposed to be able to wander around and do your social stuff, like wander around, talk to people, do activities like go bowling, go to the arcade, go to the cinema.
Okay.
Every so often you get told about a new thing that's opened up, like saying hey, this new place has opened up in Shibuya. Hey, we should we should do this one night. And he says, I'll have a look at that in this evening slot. And no, you can't, because there's some other thing that you've got to do right now. And we're not gonna let you do this thing that's really cool for the next week's worth of game days. I think what I'm trying to say is I just wish it could be a bit more open worldy in that respect, rather than saying you're ostensibly supposed to be able to do that stuff in the evenings, but even then there's like lots of scripted stuff that happens in some of the evenings, which you don't want to do because you just want to get to that other stuff. I just wish they kind of be like, okay, you have to. Most of the time they do it. They do that most of the time. It's like say, okay, here's the main story, but here's all this other side stuff you could do, and we'll completely give you the choice of which one to do, rather than like lock you in a few certain times.
Fair.
But that's about the only thing I would say about it. A lot of it is just like planning activities, because there's lots of different activities you can do. Some of it raises your stats, some of it raises your relationship with the other characters, and just a matter of planning out which one you want to do.
I mean, I've really got two games that I can talk about at the moment.
Uh-huh.
One of them I feel that we can both chime in on.
Oh, does it begin with A and end with Animal Crossing?
Yes. And then there's a colon and New Horizon.
Yeah.
So I'll talk about the other one first. And anybody that was around last night will know that I've gotten back into City of Heroes, which exists again now.
Oh wow, yeah.
Um, it did shut down, and then about a year or two ago, a couple of enthusiasts of the game launched their own private servers, where they were running the game as it had been at the end of the game.
So it's literally just like carried straight on from where the game left off, or they just like the game like stopped at 9 o'clock on a Friday. Said no, we're going to start from there now. That's where we start from.
It's basically exactly at the point where like they've not developed any. Well, this one, City of Heroes Rebirth, is the one I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
Has basically picked up where everything in the game was at the time that it finished, and they've not added anything new.
Okay.
What they have added, which is quite nice, is that some of the stuff that was behind paywalls is now available. Some of it's still behind a paywall to support them having a server and stuff, which is perfectly fine. But some of the stuff that was available that you couldn't necessarily get is now available, which is nice.
How did it compare to DC Universe? Because that's the other big one that was like of the same sort of thing.
I feel that it's completely different. Like, it's difficult to say because it's both of them make you feel like you're playing a hero, and it's been a while since I played DC Universe Online. DCO. But I always felt the City of Heroes let you make a completely custom character, whereas DCO funneled you down a slot.
So I remember this. You had like 3 paths you could go down, but each path couldn't really break out of it. You were stuck down that path and that path. Yeah.
Whereas with City of Heroes, it started with about 5 or 6 different archetypes. They, like, I don't know if this is something that got opened up in... I'm guessing this is something that got opened up in the gameplay. In that City of Heroes started with 5 or 6 archetypes that were like Scrapper, Tank, Blaster, Controller, Scrapper, Tank, Blaster, Controller, and I think there was another one that I can't remember off the top of my head at the moment. And then when City of Villains came out, the villains had their own twists on the archetypes. And then they also added in, for the heroes, they added in Peacebringer and Warshade. That was effectively, like, once you hit level 50, you could start a Peacebringer or a Warshade. They were sort of the epic level, go back and start again, but with this new option.
So were City of Heroes and City of Villains, were they actually in the same world, or were they 2 separate?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They were in this... You didn't have the same maps, but they were meant to concurrently exist.
I was saying, were they like in the same like online space? Like, would you go around in the city like?
There were PvP spaces that crossed over.
Okay, yeah.
But if you were playing on the hero side of things, you played in Paragon City, which was the City of Heroes. And if you were a villain, you played in the Rogue Isles.
Renegade City, just for the Mass Effect.
And then they've also added Pretoria, which is a neutral one that you can go to as a hero or a villain and then leave it to the other team, effectively. But yeah, Peacebringers and Warshades were basically epic level classes that you could pick up. The Peacebringers, they're basically the same alien race. The Peacebringers are a mutual symbiosis of this alien race with a human. And you get one type of power set out of that. The Warshades are a less mutual symbiosis of human and alien, except they've now come to realize actually we should be symbiotic. We shouldn't just take over this human. And you got with the Peacebringers, you kind of got a more ranged blasting attack character. And then with the Warshades, you still had a ranged blasting element, but you were a much more close combat tanky type character.
I just got this image of the Warbringers like head crabs that just like latch onto the top, and that's how they get there. Maybe we shouldn't do this.
Oh, maybe this is wrong. And then yeah, the villains sort of had their own twists on the standard classes. So, like the close combat hero, the ranged combat hero, the blaster, had a primary power set of blasting people from range, and then a secondary of a manipulation of some form. So my character that I'm playing at the moment, which is the same power set that I played in the original game, is electrical blasts and energy punching. So I blast people with lightning, and then I go and sock them with energy and send them flying.
I believe the verb for that is palpatining them, isn't it?
Little bit. But then when the villains came out, the villains' equivalent of the blaster had the manipulation power set as their primary that they focused on, and the ranged attacks as their secondary that they had, but they weren't as powerful. So it's kind of a little bit of a twist on that sort of thing, and then the villains had similar sort of things with other combinations of power sets, basically. But now, as going back into it at this point where the game got to after I finished playing it, but before they finished having it, you can now play any of the archetypes as either hero or villain. And if you play as a villain in the heroes, or a hero in the a villain archetype in the hero's side and a hero archetype on the villain's side, you're basically just a rogue, because you can do that, and it lets you pick at the beginning. Because I played through when I first got the game back up again, I thought, well, it's been a while, decade and a half or so. Probably should try and remember how to play this with the tutorials. And I fired up the tutorial, and it's a full-scale alien invasion now. That ended in a massive fight with a giant space alien creature that was really cool. And there's one point in it where you get to a hero who has the ability to siphon off the powers of others. And you then get the choice of, do you want to be a hero and take let him take some of your power so that he can keep the fight up, or do you want to blast him and take the power for yourself, in which case you become a villain?
So going back to villains can now have hero things? Because I take it as a storyline reason for why the heroes have their powers. Does that change for the villains?
No.
Because it reminds me of in World of Warcraft, going back to when the Horde first got the Paladin powers, Paladin class.
There's no storyline reason as to why your character has their power.
Oh.
You are just a superhero.
Yeah.
No
origin story. Oh.
Your origin story is whatever you call it. There are 5 origins that you get to pick that have very little effect on the course of the game. Other than sort of thematic things. But you can play a natural character who's basically got their powers from natural means. So that might be that you've got a power set that's like martial arts and gadgetry. In which case, you're just a guy that's at the peak of physical fitness and can beat the snot out of people.
And your name's Batman.
Science, in which case you were either a science experiment gone right or wrong, as they tend to do both of those things.
Sometimes at the same time, yes.
Mutant, again, fairly self-explanatory. Magic, or technology. And basically the two things that really sets for you now is that at level 24 or so, you unlock a set of titles that are themed after your particular origin story, or your origin type. And you can basically have those in front of your name. So at the moment, my character's name is the Sapphire Vault, because I have blue lightning powers and blue costume. So Sapphire Vault sounded cool. And at level 1, you get the title of The. Or Not The.
Okay.
So I am currently on there as the Sapphire Vault. But then once you get up higher enough in level, you get 2 other options of putting adjectives into your name.
The spectacular Sapphire Vault.
Could happen. And then the other thing that it affects is you get enhancements that basically let you beef up your powers. And do things like, well, this one does increase damage, this one does increased accuracy, this one does reduces the cost of the endurance to cast the magic, or to do the power. I'm a magic-based character. By default, you just have plain enhancements, but there are ones called dual origin and ones called single origin. And the dual origins are a bit more powerful than your standard enhancement, but they can only be used by 2 of the origins. And the single origin enhancements are much more powerful than your standard enhancements, but they only work for 1 of the origins. So you've kind of, your ideal goal is to get your full set of powers, or at least as far as I know. It could have changed in the couple of years that they continued making the game after I stopped playing it. But as far as I know, your kind of goal is to get a full set of single origin enhancements in your powers to beef them up to the maximum possible level. Because the single origin enhancements are the best. It's a fun game. It really is. Like, it's giving me so much nostalgia at the moment for the times when I used to play it, and kind of the other big thing that I was saying is that I'm rewatching the Marvel movies at the moment. I'm looking at this Marvel Avengers game that's coming out September time, supposedly. Although that'll probably be pushed back now
Oh, I
because...
forgot that was a thing. That's a thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
But, like, I'm looking at that going, that looks pretty impressive, and I like the idea of being able to play as one of the Avengers and sort of customize my Avenger. And I'm also thinking that is something that we definitely have to stream. And, like, when we stream it, we all pick an Avenger as ours. I'm dibsying Thor.
Okay.
And yeah, like we have the Avengers. We go out and we fight the good fight. I kind of was like then this week being like, I kind of want to play something like that now. And then I remembered that City of Heroes was back and my brother had mentioned playing it. And so I was like, hey,
That's a thing I can do.
how do I do? And so he sent me a link and I did it on stream last night and had one of the GMs for the game show up and be like,
Oh, nice.
hey, I don't think I've seen you around before, and we had a nice chat about it, so yeah, that was cool.
That's very cool.
The other game that we've both been playing is Animal Crossing.
Oh, yes.
New Horizons, which it's a curse that has spread around everyone with a Switch now, I believe.
Yes.
It's a very good game.
I think it's very interesting what people have done with it because I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but one of our friends retweeted a clip. Only just discovered this. There's a talk show called Animal Talking, and it takes place entirely in the game.
Yes, I had seen that clip.
Yeah, yeah. But it's an amazing idea that you can get people and they will just bring over their characters to your island and can actually do like a full on proper talk show there and actually have have the same sort of atmosphere you'd have in a proper studio.
Yeah, I mean the other thing that I had seen someone do is the SOS message that Bender sends in one of the episodes of Futurama, where it's like, damn it, one rock short, camera pans back out to this massive message that he's written out. Somebody had set that up on their island as like a custom pattern, so that when a plane flies over their island to drop people off at it, they see this giant message. I thought that was quite good. Although I did also see yesterday when one of our friends had their birthday that all of their villagers showed up to wish them happy birthday, and
I think they got this KK concert as well, a special KK concert, and all the animals have written messages for it, which is really cute actually. Yeah. They've done a lot. It's like how much of that game, is down to the developer and how much is because of the flexibility of it.
Yes.
So there's a lot you can do with that. Day-to-day tasks are just you go around, you dig up relics, you smash rocks for stuff.
I need to do more of that.
That's that's most of my morning, just doing that because it's like where you get most of your income from. But it's also interesting to see the other stuff you can do with it. Although I have to say that every time I see the plane flies over the island, I always think I'm thinking like PUBG or Fortnite.
Where are we going to drop this time?
I did find one thing out, and it's relevant for me for the moment. So one of my villagers said that she wanted to leave. Nana, the purple monkey, said she wanted to leave my village, my island.
Yeah.
Most of the time I say no, stay please, because I love all my islanders to bits. But this time I thought, no, she really wants to go, and the option says follow your heart. I thought, no, if she wants to leave, she can leave. I then watched the latest checkpoint where it talks about the void. Have you heard of the void?
No.
So this is a thing that's in Animal Crossing. When animals leave your village, they go to the character still exists, and it goes to some like in between place on I'm guessing on a server or something. But then
Right.
it can show up on other people's islands as well.
Okay.
So so like a couple of examples. I've seen like one I looked up some articles about this, and there's I think it's a Polygon article or a Kotaku. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but they're saying that the writer was saying that one of his villagers was being, particularly annoying. So he deliberately got him booted off and evicted from his island.
Yeah.
One of his co-workers say, "Hey, this character has shown up on my island, and he's complaining about the fact he's been boosted off your island." So like these characters still exist, even when they leave your island, they don't stop existing. They still exist as data, and they can still find their way to other people's islands. So
That's
if
real
you find
Ghost in the Shell type.
it's kind of weird, but that means that like anybody who comes to my island is a candidate for getting this character on their island now.
Which is me and Sean and Amy at the very least.
And a few other people as well. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that's quite interesting actually. It's kind of weird because like and the character will remember the island that it's been on.
That's weird. Yeah, that like I had the other day. My first, villager that showed up from. One moment.
So yeah, if anybody finds a purple monkey on their island going popo, say hi for me. Also, Flick finally turned up the other day, which I was very happy about. I hadn't seen him for like 6 months, 6 months. I hadn't seen him for like 2 or 3 weeks, and my wall of bugs for Flick was just like starting to like cover the entire lower part of my island. It was just like ridiculous.
Yeah, my first villager that showed up from my campsite was Lionel, the lion.
Oh yeah.
And hey Sean,
Hey.
you are live on Twitch.
Live on Twitch, please do not swear.
And I just said to John that one of my villagers is leaving my island, and they may show up on your island.
They shan't drop on my island.
Yeah, that's possible.
I'm full.
Um,
And today is some weird fucking chicken one.
But yeah, Lionel was basically Lionel the lion is a bit of an annoying character of like, I am the best. I've not really spoken to him much, and I bumped into him the other day, and he was like, I get the feeling I maybe want to go and follow my heart and go out there into the great wide world. And I was like, oh, but don't. I was like, why did I say that? Why did I keep this guy around? Like, I mean, I like some of my other villagers a lot. But he's also there. Is kind of how I would describe Lionel. Yeah, he's interesting. I've boiled down the amount that you need to do in Animal Crossing a day to twice a day you need to check the prices for your turnips.
Yep.
And once a day you need to go and boop the console.
I stopped doing that. I missed it down that, so I'm now back to 50 on that. I need to build that back up again. For me, my daily chores in Animal Crossing are those two things: turnips, console, digging up the 4 fossils that appear on your island overnight somehow, that just like grow in your island somehow. Dig up the bell glowy thing.
Yeah.
And if it's in a good spot, plant a tree there. But I don't know if I can find a good spot for them. But it's like, hey, bells. and pick up the message in the bottle on your beach.
Yes, that's actually another one that I need to try. I do try and do that one every day. Um, what I have now got an orchard.
Ooh.
I when I got the trees from all the different fruit, I have set up on the western half of my island. I kind of have 3 lines of trees that are spaced evenly out that are all of the fruit trees. And I've kind of cleared it from other trees and other obstacles and set it up so that literally today was one of the days that I could go in there and just boop all the trees and pick all the fruit.
I don't do it for pears. I do it for the other fruits because they're worth more because they're off island. So I do it for all of them.
Yeah, like cherries are just all over the place at the moment, wherever their tree happened to spawn. But the ones that are off island fruit, the only one that I've unfortunately got out of sync with the rest of them is apples. So today I could do the pears, the oranges, oranges.
Coconuts.
Not coconuts. Coconuts aren't in my orchard at the moment.
No.
Pears, oranges, peaches. Those are the ones that I've got in my orchard that are on the same schedule of growing. And then my apples, unfortunately, I missed a tree. So they're a day or two late on the growing to full size.
Tell you what I do find terrifying right now is finding one of my dig spots is right in the middle of a patch of flowers that I've got going because I don't want to dig up my flowers.
I mean, it's easy enough to put them back down again.
Yeah, but...
How are you finding the game, Sean?
I am finding it fine.
Any stories that you want to say?
Really? I mean... apart from yesterday where I had the really odd thing of I could not find my 4th fossil dig spot for love nor money.
I get that sometimes.
It's like, literally, I scoured my island. I must have scoured it about 5 times.
Yeah.
I could not find it. Today I've had 4, so I don't know how it works if you leave one. I don't know if it just scrubs that one and puts another 4, or whether it keeps one of them.
I don't know if it keeps one of them because I'm sure I came across a 5th one the other day and I'm not quite sure why, unless I missed one previously.
I know you can sometimes get 5, but I don't know if that's because some people leave them all. I don't know.
I mean, I did find a cherry today that was just behind a tree, where clearly I'd knocked the cherries off of a tree, picked up 2 of them, and lost one.
Yeah.
So, probably that.
Right before we came on, I did find something that's kind of annoying. It kind of needs to be signaled better. So, I was dumping all my stuff, everything I had, dumping it all in my storage for turnips tomorrow because I've got quite a lot of money to put into turnips tomorrow. Apart from the vaulting pole, I could not put the vaulting pole in my storage. And then I realised it's because I had it equipped, but because I was in my house, I couldn't see that I had it equipped.
Well, that's dumb.
So yeah, I don't know, this thing like, if you're in your house and you're not holding it, maybe that should count as putting it away.
Yeah, that would make sense.
It would make sense. Usually, well, at least last time when I was selling my turnips, I literally dropped all of my tools outside the shop and proceeded to grab all my turnips. Because I had placed all of my turnips in, like, rows outside my shop.
It's just like a path leading up to the shop.
Yeah, but literally all the path, the grass next to it, everything was all just turnips. Because it's like, well, they're going to have to go there eventually anyway, so...
Well, I mean, last week I filled my bathroom kitchen room with turnips. This week, I've got a whole new room that I haven't actually done any decorating in yet. So I've just got an empty room I can put turnips in. So that's pretty nice.
Oh man.
Um,
I need to decide what to do with the turnips that I'm getting because I don't want to put them in my new room because I've actually put some work into like getting a nice master bedroom going on, and I've actually put some work into designing it this time rather than just like dumping everything where it sits.
fair. I mean, I need to work out what this new room is going to be. I know that I want to have when I have an upstairs room, like that's going to be the bedroom.
Yeah.
I don't really have another theme for this room yet.
I'm very tempted when I get my downstairs room because that's the last room you can get in your house. When I get that room, I'm very tempted to just strip everything out and just start decorating from scratch.
Fair. I mean, does anyone else think that the basement should not be the last room you put in a house? Does that not feel like the room that you should maybe aim for earlier on? I mean, I'm no house building expert or anything.
Just suddenly digging a big cavern under your house is not gonna.
It just doesn't seem structurally sound.
You have to remember, John, this is a game where you can literally up sticks and move your house across town. This stock and barrel. Including the basement.
This is the game where the museum only takes up about 15, 18 blocks on the map, but when you go inside, it's bigger than the TARDIS.
I mean, it's bigger on the inside. What can you say? Blathers is clearly very skillful.
I mean, he does have a very nice bow tie.
I'm just quite impressed
True.
by how he can make that entire thing in one day, like all the aquarium and all the water and everything in it.
Oh, tomorrow's going to be annoying though because my Nook's cranny is being upgraded.
Yep. Did you have anything to sell?
No, I sold it all today.
Oh, what happened to me? So I told you what happened to me when my Nook's cranny got upgraded.
Yeah, you had the museum upgrade and then the Nook's cranny upgrade day after.
Yep. So I had all my fossils, but I couldn't get them assessed at the museum because the museum was being upgraded. The next day, I got them assessed. I got that day's fossils assessed, but I couldn't sell them because Nook's cranny was being upgraded. It was great.
No, the Nook's cranny upgrade they announced today. My museum was upgraded the other week, but I've not seen Red since.
I've not seen Red this week, but I saw him last week.
I saw him last week.
But at the same time, it's because they've now got so many people that visit your island, I'm presuming they're all on a random rota.
Yeah. Although it seems like I've been getting them the same day that other people have been mentioning getting them.
I've not been.
So I don't know if there's
I think it's possible that they're on
a seeded rota or something.
I think they're on rotas, and it's you're kind of just selected what one you're going to get. So
yeah,
there'll be a group of people that will get CJ. There'll be a group of people that will get Flick, and etc.
But it's not evenly spread because I'm sure I've had Savannah 2 or 3 times over the past couple of weeks.
I can't fucking get rid of Savannah. Constantly in my bloody island all the time. I had her multiple times a week.
The other night, the other day when somebody was saying that they had, is it Kix, the guy that sells you shoes and bags?
Yep.
I had him the same day that I think Sean, you mentioned having him.
Yeah.
And then the other night, was that Wednesday night when we had Celeste on? You had Celeste, Jeff, and Amy had Celeste.
Yeah.
I had shooting starts on my island as well.
I didn't. I don't know.
So
I finally got CJ and got 147,000 bells.
Oh, I got Flick. I think it was yesterday, and I just dumped all my stuff in him. And I got 400,000 out of him.
Yeah,
nice.
I I got a fair amount today because one of the hot items in the store was a silo.
All right.
Which, of course, I've just made a silo and carried it in my pocket over to the shop.
As you do.
And each of those are going for over 27,000 at double.
Nice.
So I got about 100, and I think I got about 170 with all the ones I sold.
Oh, the one that I did do the maths on, in case it comes up for either of you guys. If they ever have your hot item be the hay bed, it's made from 20 pieces of weeds.
Yes.
It works out, if my maths is right, to be double the price that you would get for the weeds individually from the guy that gives you double the price for the weeds. So it is...
20 weeds would be 200 normally, it's 400 from the leaf.
Yeah, it's 800 for the bed. If it's the hot item of the day. So it is worth doing.
Pretty much, I won't bother unless they're reasonable on it. Pretty much, if they got like rare ingredients like iron and stuff, you'll get a fair amount for them.
That's fair.
Like one time I used up quite a bit of my gold because the hot item was the golden gears, and I think I got about 50,000 bells a pop.
Whoa!
Or something like, it was something ridiculous. So I was like, yes, I'm going for that.
What was the one? I saw somebody the other day that got like a couple of million bells from their turnips.
Oh yeah.
I think they said they'd got 2 million.
Nice.
You
have to spend quite a lot together anyway. You don't just like magically get 2 million.
Yeah.
Like one turnip. You still got to put the money in.
I got like 1,200,000 and something from my, and I had 40 stacks of turnips, so 4,000 turnips.
I mean, it's one of those nice ones where you can put in for a couple of weeks and sort of build up the amount that you have for the turnip sale.
Pretty much what I've done this week is I got all that money. I paid off my loan.
Upstairs loan.
My upstairs loan. I then bought downstairs, which is now 2 million and something. I then put all of my bells into my bank, which I had 300,000 left over, and then everything I've sold since I've been putting in. So I think I got about 750,000 bells.
Yeah, I think
if I buy as many as I can get from that, so long as I'm possibly going to get a decent amount.
Yeah. I think my first week of buying turnips, I ended up with about 300,000 bells. And I paid off my loan that I had and kept the rest as this is going towards turnips next week. I think it was, I had a loan of 10 grand at the time. I'm tapping my phone for emphasis and it's saying, what's the passcode? I think I had 10 grand left on the loan at the time, and I put the 10 grand in and then I kept the 20 back for investing into further turnips.
When we all start talking about it, it hits home as how ludicrous it is.
It breaks down very quickly when you look at it, really, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I was sitting here like the Four Yorkshiremen sketch from fucking Monty Python.
Maybe we should do like the Animal Talking and actually have the podcast inside Animal
Inside Animal Crossing. That's what I could put in the other room. I can have the podcast set.
You could. That'll do.
I just need a sofa and a chair and a desk.
I can provide some of those things.
Yeah, maybe we'll look into that.
I've got one of my rooms in my house kind of going to waste though.
Yeah.
Because I had this idea, because I got like the skull wallpaper and flooring, so it's all kind of black.
Okay.
And I thought, I then made some golden gears, and I thought, oh yeah, that'll work well, black and gold. That works nicely. And then I'd made the first is it Celestial piece, the Ares rocking horse,
Right.
which I got from like the first lot of shooting stars. And I made that, and I thought, oh yeah, black and white will go really well. I like the contrast; will be really nice. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll put that in there. And then this month has been Taurus, so I made the Taurus bathtub and I put that in there. It's like now I've got to kind of just like wait
Now I've got to wait till the next.
wait until the next one.
I mean, I've got my entrance hallway at the moment is the skull floor with the giant bell carpet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the corporate one.
And then I've got sort of that's like at the moment sort of my living room bedroom room. So it's got a bed in it, it's got the wardrobe in it, it's got sort of bookshelf with like a table with the Nintendo Switch and the radio on it, and then another table with a plant and a what else is in there? Other couple of bits and pieces, and like a fireplace in one corner with a hamster on it.
One cool thing I've got the manga wallpaper.
Oh right.
I put that up in my master bedroom. That took me 2 or 3 days to make because you need 10 magazines. So I had to buy the batches of 5 because 5 is the max you can order from the Nook stop.
Right.
But it's cool. It actually looks like bookshelves on the wall as the wallpaper. Actually works quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it.
Cost the fucking most of my rooms.
I did see actually the video I was talking about earlier, Jeff, before we went live. One of the guys in it basically had a room set up, like, has his room set up with one corner of the room is just, that's my pile of stuff. And he just had a load of stuff. And then he said that he'd actually put out a DIY recipe on the floor just to wind the other person up that was coming in. And then he'd just paid off his loan and got another room. And he'd just got the third room. So like he'd got the main room and then the back room and then he'd got the side room. And they went into the side room and he had flooring that looked like it was like torn up with builder's notes on it and just a porta cabin in the middle of the room. And that was his new room that he had. Again, just to wind the other person up with what he was wasting his money on.
Nice.
I mean, I kind of think that's a decent wrap-up point for video games stuff.
Yeah.
And that we can possibly... We've been going for nearly 2 hours. So we can have like half an hour or so, however long it takes, discussion of RPGs.
RPGs?
Role-playing games, or rocket-propelled grenades, or...
randomized potato generators.
Yeah, I love me some randomized potato generators.
It's Tom Nook's like competing.
It's Red's side business.
So Sean, because you weren't here earlier because you were wrestling with a graphics card update, I was saying to Jeff, one of the things that I've been trying to look at fitting into the schedule if we can at some point in this ideal time in the future where we'll have time to fit stuff into the schedule.
Time?
I know, it's a crazy concept. Is a show called D&D Brief, where we discuss the D&D games we've got going on at the moment.
Yes.
And it would have... with the serial number scratched off, it would be the same sort of thing as Talks Machina, where we just chat about the game and what's been happening.
Yes.
So let's do that thing. So one of the key things that I was saying at the start of the episode, and we sort of left on tenterhooks till this point, 2 hours in. If you've stayed with us for that long, go you. Good on you. We're doing Waterdeep Dragon Heist to take over from
That tomb that annihilated.
that tomb. What did annihilate? It didn't. You annihilated it.
We did.
You succeeded. It was close.
Well, I was going to say without a single casualty, but there was the drow. But
I mean, he was just really underleveled to bring into the final boss fight room, really. Like, he was begging you multiple times not to take him in there. Please let me go away somewhere else. And you were like, no, it'll be fine. We'll keep you...
Just come on.
Oh. I mean, you took him away. Theodas bottled him.
We did. And now he's with us forever. And forever.
I mean, Theodas has a long time to go.
He does.
With his forever and ever and ever. Especially seeing as he's, like, one of the key causes of early death for elves is being stabbed, and he's going back to a place where he's very unlikely to be.
You say?
Very unlikely, not impossible. So basically, that group of adventurers split up, as we saw at the end of their thing, and I'm not ruling out, and I know that I've been speaking to Ben about this, there is more storyline there around Riordan.
There is.
That he and I have spoken about doing as a one-shot. Or possibly multiple one-shots in the future. So it might be that we see the ending to that storyline in the future. I hope we do, because I think that's there's definitely some stuff there to play with, some dangling threads we left unfinished. But we've got Waterdeep Dragon Heist coming up. It is going to take place starting in the summer of the year 1493, which is 1 year after Tomb of Annihilation and Storm King's Thunder at the moment. So it's further into the future, which is nice, because that means that we know there is one. Assuming you don't mess things up in Clutches of the Cult. I mean, we've got a few weeks for me to get to the plot point that I want to get to with Clutches of the Cult. That might mess up things for Dragon Heist. But hopefully you guys are big damn heroes. Or at least enough of you are. Hint, hint. And so I've got one character fully finished. I've got one character that's got some dice rolls still to be made. I've got one character that I'm sitting down with a player tomorrow and making. I've then got Sean.
Hello!
Who is faced with Sean's worst problem ever. And that is decision making.
Yes.
It's like his kryptonite.
It is.
And then I've got one person who I haven't spoken to and don't actually know the name of who wants to play.
As in, there's a person you don't know who wants to.
I said to Ben, you know anyone who wants to play? And he put the word out to his friends, and his D&D group were basically, no, we want to play 2 games, and at most 2 games, and they're playing 2 games at the moment. But then somebody else said, yeah, sure, I'm up for it. So I've got to find out if they're actually any good and are likely to be around for it.
Yeah. Yeah. There is that point.
We can hope.
We can.
So at the moment, we have a gnome cleric.
Right.
And we have a bugbear barbarian. Who I believe Ben has talked to you about, Jeff.
Yep, he has indeed, yep.
Because he's not going to be a barbarian for long. Hint,
Nope.
hint, hint. Sean is playing his long-awaited lizard folk.
Yes.
And we've also got Reginald Rosewater, human-ish paladin.
Ish.
Ish. So we've got an interesting group. Dragon Heist is an interesting one because it's not your standard D&D of running in and fight the monster. It's not a dungeon delve. It's an investigation. It's a civilization-based game, which is why Sean is going to have a lot of fun playing a lizard folk.
Yee.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then we're also kicking up the Golden Tooth, sort of on the very starting blocks of the homeward stretch of their campaign. So that's interesting too.
All the things.
So I feel that this needs to be a sort of a Q&A section. Ish. There needs to be some Q's and some A's. So, with me saying I won't answer anything that spoils anything, do you guys have any questions about stuff that has happened?
When's Talon coming back?
Never. He's already dead.
Sooner than you think. I have plans. I have plans that feed into a little backstory story that you wrote that hasn't gone onto the site yet.
I'm trying to think of one that hasn't gone onto the site yet.
There's one that you sent me that mentioned the red skies of a crisis.
Ah, yes.
That might happen at some point, and we'll see Talon around that. I have plans. We'll see him again.
I apologise beforehand if you hear gunfire and many sounds of creatures from my end.
I mean, it's just Saturday night at Sean's, isn't it?
Is this a new Animal Crossing patch?
Yeah.
You're gunning down with the village.
Finally got the brand deal.
Isabel.
Doom.
Sean, do you have any? Oh, Tarzan's here.
I can't think of questions. At least not off the top of my head. I can't think of anything that I need to know.
Well, I've got one for you then.
What?
What is Torin up to at the moment?
Torin is fucking relaxing.
He's got his feet up on a beach somewhere.
No, he's not at a beach. He's back in his home village. So he's with his adopted dad and with his missus.
Rinathesiac.
Yep. And yeah.
What's the name? Sorry. What's the full name of his missus?
Rinathesiac.
Thurgius?
Yes.
I'm waiting for John to say it.
Nope.
He's the Thurgiash.
Sergiesh.
Yeah, so he's just... Oh, fuck, I didn't mean to do that.
I didn't mean to dig up that flower, no!
I didn't even do that.
I mean, whoops, I didn't mean to do that, followed by massive explosions.
Welcome to Deep Rock Galactic. But yeah, so he's just gone back to his village. He's gone. He'll stay there for at least a while. If anything comes up that the village needs to be protected from, he'll be there, and he'll just live out his day. And obviously he'll if anything comes up like nearby as well, like any issues or problems, like I don't know, undead around or anything like that.
Yeah, the standard thing that the Paladin of Kalemvor needs to go deal with.
Yeah. So yeah, anything like that he'll go and help with, or go and deal with by himself if necessary. But for the most part, yeah, he's pretty much just gonna hang around with his lady.
Fair.
Whale of a time.
Because that's the thing, is like I know what Maddie and Sammy both said what their plans are for pretty much the rest of their characters' lives after Tomb of Annihilation.
Yeah.
And I know some of what Tanny was planning for Romad. I have no idea where Philippe has gone.
Philippe could be anywhere by now.
Somebody left the door open, Philippe got out.
There's a ball of yarn, it just like flew.
Yeah. I similarly, I know a little bit about what Riordan's going to go off and do. And that does tie back into both the aforementioned sort of one-shots that you should definitely pay attention to the website for, and the upcoming Dragon Heist. Which again, I think is probably not going to start next Sunday. But if I can get all the characters together, we'll start the Sunday after. Like the fortnight after, 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Start of June. I'm doing some interesting things with this one as well, actually. I'll mention this, because I need to tell Sean about this anyway.
Yeah.
So, Wildmount Explorer's Guide added the Heroic Chronicle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've seen the Wildemount Adventurer's Guide or Explorer's Guide, the Heroic Chronicle is basically a way to build a backstory for your character that ties them into one of the regions of that world. And it adds things like, you had a family of this size, you had these family members that were in, like, this many members of your family are in some way positively or negatively aligned with you. Roll and find out how. And so it might be things like one of your family members just disappeared. And you don't know where they went, but they promised that they'd be back when you most needed them. And things like that. Which is, it's a nice bit of backstory plot giving without it being similar to the Xanathar's Guide. It's not overwhelming, but it gives you tent poles to sort of set your backstory up against if you want that support. But the key problem that the one in the Explorer's Guide has is that it's very heavily focused on Wildemount for fairly obvious reasons. On D&D Beyond's website, they've just added a Sword Coast version of the thing, where they've rewritten all of the relevant tables for adventurers from the Sword's Coast. And so obviously that's not all of the tables in there, because there's things like size of your family and family relationships that aren't tied into the location so much. And so they can just say, well, okay, go and use the ones that are in that book. But the two bits of it that I want to use for everybody in Dragon Heist, they have a thing called a fateful moment, which is basically that bit of backstory, that moment in your life that pushed you out the front door. And sort of sets you apart from, I'm an ex-soldier and then I became a guard, to, I'm an ex-soldier and then I became a hero of the realm. And it gives you a little bit of... It gives you something. You roll a dice. According to the rulebook, you could get multiple fateful moments based on how well your dice rolls go in other sections. But I'm giving everybody one. And you get to roll a d20 and you have one fateful moment. And it gives you some bonus proficiencies or equipment. And it can be interesting, and it can be magic items.
Cool.
So everybody's going to start out with something a bit more than a standard level 1 character. Not a lot more, but a little bit. The other thing that I'm going to look at doing for everybody is there is another bit of this that is called the prophecies. And the idea is that you as a player sit down and write out 3 moments that your character will experience and a negative outcome of that. with the idea being that you write one that is a very short-term goal for a funky thing that will happen, and then a downside to that thing occurring. One that is a medium-term goal, and one is the end of the character's plot arc.
No.
And then that gives me as the GM something to play with for where do you want your character to go and what do you want your character to do. Which I think is useful for me to be able to tie your characters into both playing with each other. Thankfully, Michael isn't around tonight to find that funny. And also into the overarching storyline. So I think that's two interesting things that they've added that I'm going to make use of. Because why not?
Yeah. That sounds like an idea at the very least.
Yes. And so I feel this is a natural wrapping up point for me. I don't know if you guys have anything else you wish to say. To the stream, obviously, not. So, potato from Sean.
Yes, there you go.
Jeff, any closing remark?
Not really. Go play games.
There we go. Play more games. So at that point, it just remains for me to say thank you guys if you are still in the room for watching. We really appreciate you guys showing up. Even if you just lurk, lurking is fine and we encourage it. We do ask that if you are here and you've enjoyed what you've seen, you do hit the follow button on the way out. It's a great way for you guys to go when we go live. It will let you know when we go live with all of the stuff we do. Because we do a lot of stuff. Some of that stuff is as follows. Tomorrow night, these two are going to be back and we're going to be playing D&D. The Clutches of the Cult campaign continues as we deal with the group heading to Summit Hall and dropping off the refugees from Beliard with the Order of the Gauntlet. On Monday, Sean and myself will be back on the Minecraft server with a little bit of modded Minecraft. When life doesn't give you lemons, you go and invent a machine that grows lemons for you. Is a well-known phrase, and I'm going to be making use of it.
Some might say overused for
On Tuesday, we might do some Tall Tales in Sea of Thieves, but that's not on the schedule yet. And on Wednesday, we might have some Civilization 5, but again, that's not on the schedule just yet. But on Friday, Jeff is taking the GM's chair with Suspicions at the Spire. So, Jeff.
Yes, Prince of the Apocalypse is back on Friday. And the heroes are going to Feathergale Spire, which is going to be interesting.
Which is somewhere we've never seen before in any D&D game.
Sounds like a stupid place. Why would anyone go there for?
I don't know, but somebody thought it was a good idea.
So with that, we say thank you guys so much for watching again. If you haven't done so already, please hit that follow button. Or head on over to finalbossfight.co.uk for the full schedule of all the stuff we do and all the stuff that we've done before. For now, guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you again real soon. Bye.
Bye.